Hello and welcome to Bud's RPG Review, where I give my thoughts on role-playing games, card games and board games. Today's review is Black Sites for Delta Green the role-playing game by Oxdream Publishing. Okay, first a bit of history. Released in 2021 as a 208-page hardback book and PDF, Black Sites is a compilation of scenarios that have otherwise been available as PDFs and print on demand. The scenarios contained within are PX Poker Night, Caligati, The Last Equation, Lover in the Ice, Sweetness, Hourglass, Ex Oblivione, and a bonus 2-minute terror called The Child, which is available exclusively here in print, having only existed on Dennis DeTwiller's Patreon previously. This video will cover the first scenario in the book, PX Poker Night. To the cover. Here we have an excellent piece by Dennis DeTwiller, which is the exact kind of imagery I expect from Delta Green, and is actually based on Chris Lackey, a member of the H.P. Lovecraft Literary Podcast. Onto the inside. First up is the introduction. Here it gives some good advice on an order to run these scenarios in, which includes ones not at the time of writing available for Delta Green the role-playing game, such as Puppet Shows and Shadow Plays, Convergence, A New Age and Dead Letter, as well as existing ones such as the ones from Control Group, explaining that the child can probably be inserted at any point along the way. Okay, on to PX Poker Night. Originally released in 1997 on the Delta Green mailing list in a much shorter form, PX Poker Night was originally designed for use with the Call of Cthulhu 5th edition based Delta Green, and then subsequently released as a free PDF in 1999. PX Poker Night is also available as a 32-page PDF or full-colour print on demand. The scenario has been revamped, reworked and expanded for Delta Green the role-playing game with updated colour illustrations. There will be spoilers from this point on, so stop watching now if you intend to play this. The scenario is set on August the 22nd, 1998, a time where Delta Green is an underground operation that is always on the lookout for friendlies. It is designed to bring new characters into the world of Delta Green, and has players starting a Plat AFB. 6 pre-generated characters are included at the back of the book for this purpose, and all characters should have a long string of misconduct charges and even been locked up. Due to these misdemeanours, they have been stationed here. The base itself is home to vehicles that are due to be sold to foreign governments or sent to the Davis-Monthan AFB fields in Arizona. It is composed of a dozen buildings and 2 airstrips and is very isolated, with the nearest town, Marion, 30 kilometres away. The staff here is small and not all of the buildings are in use. Twice per month, decommissioned aircraft are delivered to the boneyard here. The base has a crew of 12 people who are here to maintain it. For many, the next step would be a dishonourable discharge or even military prison. They have little to do, with the only thing to look forward to being Saturday evenings at 8 PM when PX Poker Night is held, and it is the highlight of the week for the personnel. It is held at the NCO Club, with the bonus being that you can win senior officers' money. This particular poker night is about to take a turn for the worst. We have a map of the base, with each location detailed. The only armed people are the guards who have a rifle and a pistol, and these are passed to the next guard on duty when they swap over. The rest of the weapons here are in a locker that is accessed via the admin officers. They are listed in this table here, which even details things like pool cues and shovels. It then focuses in on the staff centre, breaking it down to actual rooms. The NCO Club, mess hall and admin officers are detailed. The motor pool is given some attention too, as it lists all of the available road transport. We then move on to the scenario itself, which begins with the title header, Strange Happenings. Over the last 25 years, Platte County has been home to numerous strange lights in the sky moving at incredible speed. They are known locally as ghost lights, and have never been photographed, nor any physical evidence provided. In 1981, cattle mutilations began, with over 100 being found dissected to date, and has come to the point where the lights are sighted every single night, even by the personnel at Platte AFB. Unbeknownst to everyone, the lights are caused by a small colony of Migo, the fungi from Yuggoth, who set up a base in an abandoned mine in 1975. The lights are the Migo flying around communicating with each other with their bioluminescence. In 1981 they started taking genetic material from livestock and secretly kidnapping humans, with the isolation of Platte County drawing little attention. As detailed in the Delta Green Handler's Guide, the Migo use biological puppets to communicate with humans, the Greys, stereotypical alien creatures that are recognisable by most, as humans react less violently to them due to their large intelligent eyes and childlike stature. Early in the afternoon on Saturday the 22nd of August 1998, a large US Air Force van arrives at the base and a man in a business suit flashes the guards his ID and shows them a bundle of orders. They're quickly let in and park near the admin building, and some men are wearing heavy body armour and carrying rifles with underslung grenade launchers guard the van. The man in the suit speaks to Major Jones, the head of the base, and then they get back in and drive over to the boneyard, where the van sits still with lights on inside. Major Jones then announces that the boneyard is to be avoided and all staff are to be confined to the base. If asked about the new people, he will tell them it is classified, assuring everyone that it should only be for one day. Pushy characters will be told to drop it. The guards have bulky helmets similar to a motorcycle one that are covered in a dull reflective surface. Those particularly alert characters can hear a low hum coming from the van if they pass a test. The whole group are part of Majestic, who have cut a deal with the Greys, as per the backstory in the Handler's Guide. A Department of Defence project called Moondust has a mission to recover foreign aerospace technology from crash sites. They dispatch teams with the codename Bluefly to pick up the items. The people here are part of that team. They have in their possession a device codenamed Sonnet, a crystal that was recovered in 1995 from a place called Cantor's Creek in West Virginia that caused madness and violence. The town was blanketed in electromagnetic interference that disrupted electronics and communications in an 8-kilometre radius. Engines would stop working within 3 kilometres. The team wore extensive protective gear and entered Cantor's Creek to find all 30 inhabitants mad or dead, killed by neighbours or trying to fly from the roofs of buildings. The animals there had befallen a similar fate. The Bluefly team packed the brick-sized crystal in a lead-lined case and Majestic covered up the deaths, blaming on mad cow disease, and they took it away to study. The crystal was assigned to Project Pluto, a Majestic team that studies alien technology. They couldn't identify what it was, but could determine what it did and started harnessing its power as a weapon, combining it with a Soviet-era EM pulse weapon that had not worked, calling the new weapon Sonnet. They decided to test it on the Greys. The reason for this is that Majestic doesn't fully trust them and wants the ability to evict them should they stay too long. They decided to engineer a friendly fire incident to see if it worked. When looking where to test it, they settled on Platt AFB due to the many UFO sightings there and a place the Greys had told them to avoid, giving them plausible deniability. The people currently there could be persuaded to stay quiet due to their military careers sitting on a knife's edge. Sonnet is in the back of the van, being operated by 2 Pluto scientists, 1 plainclothes officer and 2 armoured security guys. These are Majestic members. The van, staff and guards are shielded with the bulky helmets. Should the EM weapon work and they bring down an alien craft, they plan to pull a lever to drop the crystal into a lead-lined safe, and then a Bluefly team with helicopters with a transport plane that are stationed 150 miles away will be called in to secure the crash site and recover whatever is there. The base personnel will be told to forget everything. There is a slight issue that Majestic are not aware of. The crystal is actually a fragment of a MiGo gate ship that snapped off when one was struck by lightning. Gate ships contain an active portal inside them that the MiGo can pass through, so they are not usually passengers on their ships. The ship travels to the location and they step through. The EM given off is actually part of the ship's propulsion, and when the Sonnet device is focused on a gate ship, it will cause the propulsion system to fail and the ship to crash. This will also cause the crystal to discharge alien energy that will kill everyone wearing the protective helmets. Essentially, the device cannot be used without protection, but when it takes down a ship, the protection kills you. Once the crew is dead, the crystal will continue emanating its EM wave, which dampens all electrical power sources within 3 kilometres. The Sonnet device also slowly drains the sanity of people nearby at the rate of 0/1 every 30 minutes when powered down, and 0/D6 every 30 minutes when powered on. As SAN is lost, those affected start hallucinating, causing a penalty to skill tests. Metal wall buildings will offer protection, as will large metal objects such as tanks. Even a steel pot over the head will confer a bonus to SAN. After Sonnet causes the crash, the rate of SAN loss jumps up to 0/D4 every 5 minutes and stops electrical devices from functioning. It then goes on to outline the structure of the day in the next section, a long afternoon. It gives a suggested timeline of what happens throughout the day from 1 PM when the van arrives at the gate, right through to 11 PM when the Bluefly commandos arrive to secure the base. Between 1 to 4 PM, it is mentioned that the players actually don't have any duties, and the handler is encouraged to create a small scene that establishes their different personalities and allows them to openly speculate about the van. During this period, the Sonnet device is activated and the personnel start feeling the low-level effects. Between 4 to 6 PM, tensions on the base start running high as SAN is slowly being drained and fights may even break out. Between 6 to 8 PM, Sonnet is slowly eroding sanity further, with those outside on guard duty and with actual firearms feeling the effects worst. As time goes by, the unease, hallucinations and arguments start to break out further. The poker night begins 8 PM and a few hands of actual poker are encouraged to be played to get the feel of the game. At 9 PM, the device is turned up to maximum and the NPCs burst in, hallucinating violently and blaming Major Jones for everything. This situation can easily spiral out of control, but the handler is encouraged to keep tensions high. The player should realise at this point that it is the sanity erosion and everything that goes with it that is connected to the van and try to escape, though Major Jones will try and stop anyone from leaving. Of course, vehicles will stop functioning when the Sonnet device team dies. The site personnel may even mutiny and attack the Majestic guards. Should they approach the van, the crew will verbally warn them to stay back and shoot anyone who doesn't hang back at least 40 metres. If a full-blown resistance starts, they will turn off Sonnet, call for backup, then turn it on full to disrupt the personnel. It gives us a table of the effects of sanity loss for each member of staff, from normal san loss to temporary insanity to permanent insanity. Should none of the previous happen, at 9:05 the device reacts with the Migo gate ship and it subsequently crashes. The players will hear a horrible whine and grinding sound, then an electrical sizzle all around. Above the van, a crystalline craft will appear with energy pulsing between itself and the van, with a stray bolt of lightning hitting a transformer causing the lights to go out around the base. All people wearing the protective helmets are instantly killed and the craft plummets into the boneyard. Particularly alert players will see a strange light within the van that pulses. While this is happening, the sand loss will continue and the blue fly helicopters won't be able to get near without crashing. Should the players not look into the van, they will join their sanity-blasted colleagues in stalking the base. Inside the van they will find the dead crew, though it was locked and bulletproof so they will need to pry the doors open. The back half is filled with a large electronic device with the crystal mounted within. There is a lever marked Emergency Shutdown. If this is pulled, it drops the crystal into a lead-lined safe, shutting it down. Of course, if they blast the van with weapons or burn it out, this shuts it down too. Once switched off, they can of course radio for help, with the Blue Fly team arriving in 30 minutes. They can find some documentation that describes Sonnet in technical terms, with the document here claiming that the base personnel are expendable being the most interesting. We then move on to what becomes of the gate ship. The Migo were unaware of the Sonnet device, so upon detecting the emanations of the crystal, performed a flyby which caused their systems to fail and for them to crash. The energy feedback killed the guards and the gate was destroyed, stranding the Migo on the ship and cutting it off from its brethren. It is now pinned down in the ship, unable to get itself free. They had 6 grey automatons on board, with 2 surviving the crash and they are too weak to free the Migo, so it sends the greys to the humans with the idea being to get them back to the ship to free it. The ship lies in the boneyard wreckage about 1 kilometre from the barracks and is clearly visible. About 10 minutes after the crash, 2 beings walk from the crash site towards the humans, followed by a glowing ball of light. They approach with their arms raised in surrender. One of them balances a piece of crystal on its head, and they then ask for assistance, saying their dog is injured and that they are too weak to help. They are difficult to speak to due to their strange understanding of English. They don't use plurals very well, have almost no understanding of human culture, and the crystal is an attempt of demonstrating rank, and whatever one experiences, they all experience. They answer questions, literally. If questioned, they will explain, eventually, that they're from the M31 star cluster and that a catastrophe destroyed their homeworld. They desperately need genetic material because they're sterile, cloned for space travel, and only want peace and free trade with all species. They also offer assurances that they will put humans in contact with other species when the humans are ready. If nobody offers to come, one of the greys will grab their side and collapse, a really obvious ploy to get them to approach. The ship itself is a crystal octahedron around 10 metres long, which, despite its crash state, looks unmarked. It glows slightly and is surrounded by debris from the inside, which includes 3 badly burned grey corpses. The entrance to the ship opens magically from a central pinpoint into a 2-metre wide circle. The floor looks like packed dirt and it has a TARDIS-like large interior that is littered with debris and strange devices. Within the ship, at an intersection, lies a dead grey. To the right is an examination room, and straight ahead is the gate room. This has a trans-dimensional gate that leads to the nearby Migo base. It's spherical and made of what looks like clay. A large chunk of the gate has come loose and pinned a hideous creature with crab-like arms and a spongy, chitinous exoskeleton. The head shifts colours between red and blue, and it whimpers in a disturbing way which sounds like a recording of a dog. It can be freed if the characters and greys work together. The examination room is pretty much what you would expect, and off that is a storage room that is piled up with personal items, watches, wallets and the like that go back around 50 years. It also has a set of drawers that contain indentations that are shaped like the greys, that is made from what looks like plastic and smells like burning cardboard. Should the Migo be freed, the lights on the craft will go out and the greys will grab the characters with an unnatural speed and the Migo will scuttle off. If the players try to block the Migo, the greys will produce alien tools and use them to kill or paralyse them. Once the Mi-Go escapes, they fall lifeless to the floor. The ball of light will shoot out at the ship to distract anybody that might stop the Mi-Go, and then flies away and disappears. The ship will stop glowing, and after it has scuttled away into the dark and dusty maze of the boneyard, it will hang around for 3 rounds and then fly off into the night. The final problem the players face is the Blue Fly team of commandos. An Apache AH-64 will arrive around 40 minutes after the crash and will crash spectacularly itself if the sonic device has not been disabled. Should this happen, the Blue Fly will land around 6 kilometers away and enter on foot, arriving around 2 hours later. They will round up the base personnel and take them away for questioning. If Sonnet has been disabled, the Apache will circle the base and then a Black Hawk will arrive 5 minutes later with the commandos. Should the personnel flee by vehicle, the Blue Fly helicopters will intercept them, taking them into protective custody. It is at this point that the scenario ends. They are flown out to Offutt AFB in Omaha, where they receive excellent medical care and are then debriefed and told that everything that happened to Platt AFB is now classified as top secret. They'll be told that it was an experimental device that caused hallucinations. There were no aliens and nobody was listed as expendable. It was all in their heads. They will be told that if they tell anyone, their families' lives will be turned upside down. If they agree to this, they are given an honourable discharge and $25,000. The next section deals with the aftermath. If this is being run as an introduction to Delta Green, then something else happens. A few weeks later, they are approached while doing something completely normal like shopping by a stylish black woman with braided hair and blue-tinted sunglasses, who introduces herself as Ms. Green. She will offer condolences about their friend and hand them an obituary which talks about the death of one of the other characters due to natural causes. She will then tell them that they are in danger. If they question her, she has a number of prepared responses ready and will attempt to recruit them into Delta Green. If they refuse, she will continue mailing them more obituaries showing the survivors from Platt AFB dying at a worrying rate. If they agree to her proposition, then they are recruited into Delta Green and their problems have only just begun. It details some SAN rewards for surviving the scenario, all of the base personnel as well as the Majestic team, the Greys and the Mi-Go, and it has some printable handouts for the players to use as guidance as their characters drift quickly to insanity, and finally 6 fully statted out pre-gens complete with portraits, which came as a pleasant surprise. PX Poker Knife fills a certain niche in the Delta Green product range. It is a perfectly decent starter scenario to be used to introduce new players to the game, and I mean, there is a reason that it's been used for the last 20 years as a starter adventure, as it covers many of the themes that Delta Green hopes to show the players. Loss of sanity, violence, secrecy, aliens, mythos threats, cover-ups, the expendability of mankind, and the doomed salvation that Delta Green as an organisation wants to desperately convince new recruits to believe. Only previously available in a multitude of different formats, PX Poker Night now slots into Delta Green's catalogue nicely, with proper art and system-relevant changes. The scenario could easily end up being a game of cat and mouse around the lockdown base between the barely sane players and the psychopathic and deranged personnel, with the lack of guns proving to make it a bit more challenging. Add the crashed alien spacecraft, the grey aliens and the horror of the Mi-Go to the mix, then top it off with the commandos arriving and taking everyone prisoner, and this proves to be a memorable game for those who've never played it before. However, I don't think more experienced players would receive as much gratification from it, as more often than not they will know what's behind the curtains and react accordingly. As a beginning scenario, I feel that this is a bit better at introducing players to the game than something like BlackSat, as it being grounded in the familiarity of an Air Force base would, I imagine, make it a bit easier to get your head round. I do feel like the interaction with the Mi-Go at the crash site could have been a bit more fleshed out, and perhaps a chase sequence following the glowing fluids of the wounded creature through the boneyard with all the creepiness that entails, as well as being pursued by the sanity shredded personnel from the base, could give a much better reveal of the creature behind everything, but that's just maybe how I would play it. I think new players will have a blast with PX Poker Night, and as that is who it is generally aimed at, then that is what I'll base the score on. I give it an 8 out of 10. Okay, that concludes part 1 of Black Sites. Part 2 in this series will be Caligati.